William Devane was Bob Costas' guest on Later on January 9th, 1992. And he was promoting his wrapping up hit series, Knots Landing. Proud to say I never watched an episode. But I did love Missiles of October, where he played JFK. And he also was great in Family Plot, Alfred Hitchcock movie that, yeah, I love it because it's got Bruce Dern in it. But Devane's great in it too. He is wonderful at playing a villain or a good guy. Great actor. And he's still kind of active. 2022, he was in that Bosch streaming series on Amazon. So check out this from 33 years ago today. He's 85. Shoot, I'm old.
Thanks for staying up later. Now, William Devane is with us, and you can put that back in your mouth. It won't be impolite, because people might think this is the first time I've ever interviewed somebody chewing on a toothpick. Incorrect. UL Washington, who used to play shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, played with a toothpick.
With a toothpick?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And post-game interview, talked with him, and every time the guy would come on camera, the producer would say in my ear, remind kids that that's not a good thing to do. Because, you know, they'll get taken out on a double play, they'll swallow the toothpick, at the very least, their mouth will go sideways, they'll have to, like, perform an operation to pull it out. So you're only the second person, it's not a first. So do what you wish with it.
Okay.
Knots Landing's been on the air since when? More than a decade, right?
Yeah, this is its 13th season. I've been on it 7. So it's been on a long time. Actually, it's on in the morning on TNT, too. Plays every day. It's incredible.
But Thursday nights on CBS.
CBS, yeah.
How much longer, do you think?
Well, I think it could be on indefinitely. Certainly another year. I mean, I can't imagine them pulling the plug on it without giving it the respect it's due. You know, without letting them prepare a season to take it out on a really good, strong level. Letting it wind down and wimp out like some of those other shows have done, I think is the wrong way to approach it. You know, I kind of like the way Hill Street Blues stayed right on a kind of a crest, and it was gone, you know. And I think that Knots Landing deserves that kind of treatment, you know. It deserves to be given a year to take itself out, yeah.
I think a lot of people would say it's pretty clear that you have a certain devotion to the show and pride in it. A lot of people would be surprised by that because they'd say, you know, here's William Devane. You know, he was in Marathon Man with Hoffman and Olivier. He's been in stuff with George C. Scott. He did a definitive Kennedy in a miniseries, did the From Here to Eternity thing, and held up well in a role that Burt Lancaster had created. And now here he finds himself on a nighttime soap, and not only does he do it, he feels good about it.
Yeah, well, professionalism is everything to me. I mean, I think that's a really important key to it. But it's the best part that I can get. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's the best part. I'm out there in the marketplace. They want me to play somebody who pushes everybody around, and then Schwarzenegger rips my head off at the end. Or they want me to play somebody's father in a dumb movie about teenage sex. Or, you know, it's not there. This is where it's at for me right now. I mean, I think Eastwood or somebody said a long time ago, you know, you dance to the music they're playing. And I enjoy the part, and they bend over backwards to accommodate me and, you know, keeping the character alive and going places. So it's the bottom line is it's the best job I can get. You know, I'm in line behind Bobby Duvall, behind Roy Scheider, behind, you know, by the time all those guys turn it down, it ain't worth doing. You know, I mean, there's not much you can do because they're all astute guys. They all know what's going on. So if there's anything in the material, those guys are going to leap at it.
How much do people still associate you with Kennedy? Someone sees you in a restaurant, airport. Is that what they want to talk about? Missiles of October?
They always seem to be brighter. I don't mean that as you know what I mean? They seem to be people who remember it. A lot of kids, I mean, they play it in colleges a lot, I think, in political science classes and things like that. So it's been seen by a lot of people, even young people, even though it doesn't play on television a lot. Yeah, a lot of people do remember it with a certain amount of respect, you know. It was a phenomenal thing at the time, you know, and in the business, I think it still lingers a little bit, you know. It's one of those things that people really associate me with.
I don't mean to patronize you here, but I think that you nailed it for the purposes of a television miniseries, nailed it so well that people who subsequently played Kennedy decided to go in a different direction. Like, I can't think of anybody else who played it with an accent after that or did it, you know, you got it a certain way and they decided, we can't equal that, we got to go someplace else.
Yeah, well, I think that I was fortunate to be involved in the one with the best text. It was very well written, and the guy who wrote it was working at Berkeley at the time, and each draft he would take to Bill Ball's company, the ACT. They would actually put it on its feet, rehearse it, work it for him. Mm-hmm. He'd go back and rewrite it. So it had a lot of attention before it got on the floor. And, you know, the people involved were extraordinary. I mean,
so Martin Sheen was Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, Martin Sheen was Bobby Kennedy.
And you were JFK. I read something, and you can fill in the particulars, about how you got into the role physically that actually then helped you get into it mentally. The back brace and the
right.
shoes.
I did all of those things, you know. I stayed at a hotel in L.A. while we were shooting, and I had a lot of pictures in my room, and I used the back brace quite a bit. And actually the key to it for me was something Anthony Page said, who directed it. And he said that you need to use, he said, Billy, you need to use Katharine Hepburn as an image. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure, but basically, my act was really very close to Bobby Kennedy's act. Aggressive, you know, and it was not the right color. And basically, what he wanted me to do was get on the feminine side, which was more the Jack Kennedy side, would be more the feminine side, you know. And although I didn't understand it quite that clearly at the time, I was able to go slower, be more thoughtful, and a little...
I read an interesting thing, and you never know if the stuff you read is exactly right, but you can let me know, that the way you saw it, instead of seeing it in larger terms, in international terms, you saw it as Khrushchev is this old line guy, and you're the young gunslinger. And Khrushchev is, in essence, trying to screw up your career.
Right, that's how
you screw this thing up, you're dead.
Right. I mean, I tried to bring it down to a level of that personal, yeah. So that was my attack, was this guy's trying to ruin my career. This guy's trying to end my political career. You know, I have to protect myself, you know. Yeah, that's one of the attacks I took on it, sure.
Am I going to launch an all-out nuclear war? Because one junior officer in Cuba pushed a button he shouldn't have pushed and killed one pilot?
So when somebody says act presidential, the thought that goes through a layman's mind is, well, if someone's going to act presidential, he's going to wind up being a cardboard figure. You can carry yourself regally and try to have a certain presence, but it's incumbent upon you to try and find something beneath that, to try and find who the person is that winds up being president. How did you get a fix on that?
Well, a lot of that has to do with, like, if you want to act tall, stand around a lot of short people, and you're acting tall.
People are drawn to me like a magnet.
But that's what happened. Basically, I was surrounded by people who had a great deal of respect for me, a great deal of respect for the amount of courage it took at that time to take this step. I mean, basically, I'm the third guy through the door on, you know, Hawaii 5-0 at that time, you know, with a gun. And you're being asked to, you know, you're being offered an opportunity to take a shot at something like this, you know. A lot of guys turned it down because it ruined their careers, you know. And I was advised by a number of really hip people not to do it, you know. But, you know, I figure, listen, I'm the third guy through the door in Hawaii 5-0. That could go on forever.
So once you did it, though, that was when you decided to step away, right? Some people said, don't do it, you get typecast as Kennedy. Once you did it, and you did it well, then there were other things that spun off of that. And they wanted you to either reprise the role or come on and talk shows and just be that guy. Or
Sure. I did a test commercial for a girl in New York. I can't remember her name, but they had a product called Wash and Wear Hair for Men. You use it in the shower. And we went up to Connecticut, and she just wanted to test it in Pennsylvania someplace. So we went in, and it's wash and wear hair for men. You use it in the shower. Right?
They wanted you to do this as Kennedy?
Yeah, but I said I would never do this, you know, but she said, would you just do me a favor and come and do this so we could test it in one market, just, you know, to see whether the concept of having a shampoo and hairdressing and the whole shot at once was a concept that they could sell, you know. They ended up making it a rug cleaner. So I guess the concept didn't work. But, yeah, there's no sense of going back, you know.
Lots of people have shirts and sweaters with a little polo guy on it. But in your case, it might indicate something because you play polo pretty avidly, don't you?
Yeah, I have been playing pretty avidly for the last few years. I get banged up a little bit, so it's taken some of the edge off, you know. I haven't been able to be as aggressive as quick. So it's, you know, I'm really slowing down in it, you know.
What is it that appeals to you about polo? Because I think a lot of people, even if they had the chance, would veer away from it because it's viewed as an elitist sport.
See, that's how it's viewed. But, I mean, most of the guys that I play polo with are starving to death. I mean, they're horse trainers. They're, you know, they're regular guys just trying to get through it, you know. Supported sometimes throughout the year by a rich guy who hires them to play with him. But basically, the body of polo, the guys who really make it up are, you know, there's one rich guy, there's 3 other guys, and they're all out there scrambling to make a living on these teams. So it's just a really dangerous and interesting game to be involved in. I mean, it's like adrenaline. It's like, whoa, forget it, you know.
And the variety of skills that are necessary to play it well. I mean, there aren't many activities that combine that many different skills simultaneously.
Right. You have to do a lot of things. You got to be able to ride well, you know, and it's... I don't ride well enough to be really a good player. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm a good average, not even a good logo player, but I mean, I can play. It's about your temper, though, for me. That's what it's about. It lets a monster come out of me that is interesting, that you don't see socially very often, you know, when you get into that game. You know, it's like watching hockey players. All of a sudden, man, they're flailing at each other and just whacking each other. It's like that in polo, except you can't whack each other because you're going 35 miles an hour on a 1,000-pound horse, you know, so you got to be very careful that way. But the rage that you get that comes out, you know, it's... I've become a much calmer person from playing it, you know. I've recognized that guy, you know, so it's been interesting.
You were in Hitchcock's last movie, right?
Yeah.
Family Plot?
Family Plot.
Now, by that point, Hitchcock's 75 years old or something, right?
Right. Phenomenal. I replaced the guy halfway through it. I was not the first choice. He was working with somebody. He did not get along with him. And so I backed into that picture. They'd already shot all the location stuff in San Francisco.
You know, just beautiful.
Did he intimidate you at all?
No, he didn't intimidate me. He never spoke to me very often, you know. He said William Powell, which I never got. I'm much heavier than that. But, I mean, in that picture, you know, but I got it like, you know, 6 months later. William Powell, that's right. The thin man, right. You know, but I went up to him after like 3 weeks and I said, listen, Hitch, I said, I assume that I'm doing what you want, otherwise you would tell me different. He said, of course.
And that was
away.
And he walked away?
Yeah. So it was, he was just kind of a strange guy. But he could fall asleep between action and cut. In the afternoon especially.
See, once you've got a certified body of work that makes you a genius, doing that just adds to the mystique, makes you more enigmatic, mysterious.
Well, he hated
the aspects
shoot.
of genius. Whereas with somebody else, you go, what's with this schlemiel?
Yeah, wake him up. Pay attention, you know. But see, he was still of the school where they storyboarded every shot. So every shot was basically already done on a storyboard. So he wanted to go, he'd go and do second unit with the car going down the hill and stuff. He'd rather do that. They wouldn't let him, you know. So he would sit there, you know. He'd sit under the camera. He never looked through the lens. He never looked at rushes. You know, he did it like Woody Allen does. You know, he'd shoot for 10 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. Then he'd sit for a week and watch everything. Then he'd go back and reshoot a little bit if he needed to. But he never looked through the camera, you know. He'd just sit there and he'd say, action. He just right on.
The people advise you not to do Missiles of October. Do they advise you not to do From Here to Eternity? Just on the basis of, hey, it's a classic motion picture. Burt Lancaster was in it. Don't tread here.
No, actually, that was easier because we knew we were going to get to do a lot more of the book. that we were going to get to do a lot of things that they couldn't do when they shot that movie. And we shot the same number of days that they shot to make 2-hour film. We shot 6 hours of film, the same number of days, television. But, I would have never not done that under any circumstances because of Natalie Wood. I mean, what a pleasure to work with and be around, and just an absolutely incredible person.
What happened to the series that was supposed to spin off of that? Wasn't there supposed to be a From Here to Eternity series or something?
Yeah, we did. They wanted to do something right away, and I had contracted to direct a play in New York with Michael Moriarty called Girard Point, which we started in Baltimore, and we brought it to Broadway, and it didn't go very long, which is actually kind of an interesting Vietnam play that starred Michael Moriarty, and at that time, Michael Jeter was fabulous in it. And so they couldn't go right away. And then we went like 8, 9 months later. Barbara Hershey and I did 12 of them. But it was Silverman was going downhill at the network at the time, and it was all going kind of shambles and crazy, And they didn't quite know what to do with it. And they had a kind of half-baked success with Baba Black Sheep with Bob Conrad. And so they wanted to make it more a war-related thing, and I kept stressing the fact that the reason Warden is in so much trouble is that they won't let him go to war, that they keep him at a desk, they keep him confined. That's the essence of his character. And they wanted to send me out in the jungle with machine guns and shooting people, and so we had a lot of conflict. A lot of conflict.
Did you ever get a feeling that you were on the outs in Hollywood? You might not work again, or if you did work, you'd take stuff that was beneath your talent?
I never had a lot of respect for my talent, until just recently, the last few years. And that came basically on constantly working on Knots Landing. I've been on the outs a number of times because I didn't understand the game, where I'd get really, like, with the polo analogy, I just get in the wrong place for the wrong reasons, fear and ignorance put me in a kind of guarded and defensive position, which I didn't need to be in. So yeah, I created, From Here to Eternity, created an incredible service with those guys, and I didn't work for like 3 years. And I felt really bad about it because basically I'm not a bad guy. I just didn't understand. I'm used to getting done what I need to get done by going and doing it, and there's a certain kind of team play. I still have that as a residue, but I'm not as bad with it. I just didn't understand the game. And when I went to Knots Landing, one of the reasons I went there in the beginning was, there's 2 reasons. I was broke was a big reason. But the other reason was that I wanted to make it absolutely clear that I was capable of being a consummate professional.
Team player?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do best. Both my sons are terrific basketball players because of that attitude, They understand that's the game they most like to watch. That's, my youngest son's a pretty good polo player too, but it's a team thing, and that's what we do in Knots Landing. We participate in a team effort. There's no star. A star is like a carpenter, a cameraman, a sound man. It's a job description in this situation. And it has certain responsibilities attached to it. And I'm fully capable of, being responsible for that. And at that time, when I did From Here to Eternity, I was not communicating that. I was communicating that I was some kind of a dope, wise guy. And that was not correct. And I was really interested in repairing that,
And Devane can, of course, be seen in Knots Landing Thursday nights on CBS. Time for us to clear out. Thanks for coming by. We enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
Bob. Yeah,
okay.
It's great.
We're out of here. See you later.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. It's awfully bright out here. I'd click on another one of my videos. Quit looking into the sun. Your mother told you not to do that. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel more, there's GoFundMe and Patreon information in the video descriptions. Ooh, ooh!